At that period, I was living with them for about 7 months, and it seemed that my mother was trying to find me, which of course I was not aware of. My father had disappeared for about a month, and the total time since I was living with them was 7 months. And I found out later on that during those 7 months, she was trying to find me. She succeeded somehow. Again, Jews, one helps one another, especially during wartime. It's just incredible of all the places how she managed to find me. Not only did she find me, but she's the one who told us that the Germans took my father. It seemed that that friend of his had told someone who told someone, and that's how my mother found out that my father was in a German concentration camp. And eventually she found out exactly where I lived and where I was. So here one day she shows up about a month later, and of course it was a fantastic moment. I don't know, it's the whole thing is so unreal. Either I was with him alone or with her. It was such a short time where I lived with both of them at the same time. And here we went through that whole routine again, all over. He wasn't there, then she was there. Well, the arrangement that was made was that she would continue the payments for my staying there, and she would continue visiting me. Which she did, of course, regularly. I would say about every 3-4 weeks she would visit. Now, those 3 following years where I stayed with my foster parents, what I remember most of all were the days where I would be in school, and when the bell rang and it was the end of a school day, and I would walk out with all the other children. Very often she would surprise me and wait across the street from the school. And those were the highlights of my life. I always admired her beauty. She was absolutely stunning. And as she grew older, she became even more beautiful. And my biggest thrill was that instead of running across the street to her right away, I would gather all my very best friends. I always had a couple. And I would point her out to them and say, "Look, that woman over there, that's my mother. Isn't she gorgeous? Isn't she absolutely beautiful?" I would always rave about her to my friends. After I made sure that they noticed her, I would then run across the street and kiss her and walk back with her to my foster parents. But the pride I had about her it never had to do with any mother-daughter relationship as far as warmth and love and affection. It was mostly her beauty that I found absolutely fascinating. And needless to say, she was flattered, and at that particular time I was extremely skinny and gaudy looking and ugly, just a funny looking kid. I was a tomboy. I didn't pay attention to myself too much as far as clothes, which I had very little of anyway. But I was just a funny-looking kid, and she just, to me, was the most beautiful woman in the world. And that's mostly what I took pride in. Nothing else but her beauty. And when we'd walk together in the street from the school back to home, I'd look around to to see how people would react to her walking next to me. I was just so proud of her. Those same years again, what she did during the war was she was involved in the black market. She did not look Jewish, so of course there was no problem. And she was a very shrewd, intelligent, aggressive woman who, with no education whatsoever, had such mathematical mind. She was absolutely incredible. And her business was scarves. She bought scarves, she sold them, she smuggled them into Belgium through the borders. She made a hell of a lot of money, in fact. She had a small apartment in Paris, and then she had bought a beautiful apartment in Brussels, in Belgium, and it's all from smuggling. I mean, that was what she was doing for a living. So, in fact, I helped her even smuggle. I wasn't aware of it consciously, of course, but I do remember quite often when there was vacation time, and she would then take me to Brussels to a beautiful, magnificent apartment, and we would be on a train crossing the border. And what she would do is, if there were 2 months of vacation, I would spend the whole 2 months with her in Brussels. If it was 2 weeks vacation, it would be the same thing again. But before we went to Brussels, she would first take me to Paris with her, and she bought a dress for me that was 5 sizes too big. And what she would do is, she was absolutely so clever about it. She would attach a cord where you usually hang clothes down to dry. She would attach a cord from one end of the room to the other and put those beautiful scarves, they were all square, those gorgeous scarves she would put over the cord. Sometimes 50, 60, or sometimes 100 of them. And then she would take me by the hand, pull the cord down from one end, and just turn me around it in a circle until I reached the end of the room where the end of the cord was. And of course I was at least 5 sizes bigger. And then she would put that dress over me. She then would go to the same routine and do the same thing for her. And that would really bug me because she was so beautiful and slim and gorgeous. And there she also bought herself, she also had the different size dresses for herself. And she would do the same thing. She would encircle herself with those scarves and then put this dress and the two of us standing there, heavy, fat, and with all the scarves underneath us. And then we'd take a train, cross the border, no questions asked. It was unbelievable. And then we'd get to Belgium, and then of course she would have buyers there, and anyway, that's how she made a hell of a lot of money with the black market. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to mention. When she appeared on the scene at my foster parents and said she was my mother, etc., and all that business, she was not aware that they did not know I was Jewish. And she does have this tendency sometimes to talk too much and not being aware of it. She told them how grateful she was for them having kept me, and because their lives were of course endangered, because if anyone would know that I was Jewish, they could have been in trouble. Well, of course, by then my foster parents were they were flabbergasted to hear this. But they had gotten so used to me that they didn't mind. They didn't think twice about how endangered their lives were. They decided to keep me on anyway. And for the longest time they saw that she was Gentile and that my father had, they realized my father was Jewish since she had told them he was in a concentration camp. But they saw that she wasn't, and that of course I was only half Jewish, so there was really no problem. And when she told them she was Jewish, they didn't believe her. They just saw that she liked to dramatize things. She so didn't look at it. It's incredible. Nobody believed it, even when she admitted it. Well, anyway, whenever there was vacation time, she would take me to that magnificent apartment in Brussels. It was actually Schaerbeek. Brussels is divided in 5 parts, and Schaerbeek is one of the nicest neighborhoods nicest section in Brussels. And after living there with her and having good food and nice clothes, at that time she really would spoil me. Of course I didn't want to go back to Lille, to my foster parents. And she said there was no way out, she couldn't help it, she can't work and smuggle and do all that with me hanging around, that it's only temporary. As soon as the war is over, we'll all be together again. There just was no way out. That's how it had to be.